Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk, coming to you from Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC, also streaming on the iHeart and the iTunes app. This program is later archived for your convenience on Spreaker.com. So, hi there, my name is Rabbi Perl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening or watching us. So hello on the radio. Hello to those watching us on Facebook Live. Hello to all those listening to us online. And hello to the world. And certainly today we say hello to the world in a very special, meaningful, touching way as we dedicate our program today to the loving memory of all those who lost their lives on 9/11 and to the bravery of all the first responders and the extraordinary memories that are being recounted and retold today. Our hearts are with all the grieving families. May God comfort you. Let's remind ourselves, let's refresh our memory a little. The September 11 attacks, commonly known as 9/11, were 4 coordinated suicide terrorist attacks carried out by militia, Islamic extremists, a network of the Al-Qaeda against the United States of America. On the morning of Tuesday, September the 11th, in the year 2001, 19 terrorists, directed by the Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, hijacked 4 commercial airlines mid-flight while traveling from northeastern United States to California. The attackers were organized into 3 groups of 5 members and 1 group of 4, with each group including 1 designated flight-trained hijacker who took control of the aircraft. Their goal was to crash the planes into prominent American buildings, inflicting mass casualties and major structural damage. The hijackers successfully crashed the first 2 planes into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, and the 3rd plane into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. The 4th plane was intended to hit a federal government building in Washington, D.C., but instead crashed down in a field outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, following a passenger revolt that foiled the attack. The first plane to hit its target was the American Airlines Flight 11. It crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan at 8:46 a.m. And today, we are going to pause for a moment of silence at 8:46 a.m. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., the World Trade Center South Tower was hit by United Airlines Flight 175. Both 110-story towers collapsed within an hour and 40 minutes, leading to the collapse of another World Trade structure, including 7 World Trade Center, and significantly damaged surrounding buildings. We now go to our interview, a special interview in honor of September the 11th, and I'd like to welcome Moshe Moskowitz, who is a survivor of 9/11. So please share with all of us, first of all, what happened to you on September the 11th in the year 2001.
Great. Well, thank you first for having me. I really appreciate it. September 2001. So I worked on the 79th floor on the World Trade Center at Fuji Bank, and I was there early. And I always have to preface it by telling people that today, when you hear like a loud bang or something, you automatically think terrorism. It wasn't like that back then. That was a result of that day. So when I tell the story, people are like, "Why didn't you run right away?" I'm like, "Because that changed it. The Matthias changed that day. It changed the day." So I worked on the 70th floor, and also 79 floors is so high that a few months before 9/11, someone told me to come to the window, and you actually could see the clouds were below us, and the shadow of the towers were on the clouds. So that's how high 79 floors is. I worked there. I was there when the first plane hit. The first plane hit the other building. I worked at World Trade Center 2, 79th floor, and our building shook. And we knew what it was. We didn't think it was terrorism. We thought maybe a small bomb. But we didn't think it was. Not a small bomb, a small plane. Sorry, but we didn't think terrorism. We thought it was maybe. We didn't know. And I remember looking outside the window, and you probably remember the olden days. Remember they used to have the ticker tape parades. So that's what it looked like. It looked like all this paper was flying by, but some of the paper had like fire attached to it. And that's what we saw outside our window. And we still didn't exit right away. And then there was a Malach, an angel that worked for Fuji Bank. His name is James Outerbridge. He saw the plane hit the other building, and he went floor to floor of Fuji Bank saying, "Leave now, leave now." And we left. And I remember I got to the stairwell, and someone said, "At least the lights are on this time." That was a throwback to when they train service the first time they had to exit in the dark. So here we are, we're leaving, and we're walking down casually. Again, there wasn't the technology today. People didn't have smartphones. People on the outside, during this whole story, I tell you, people on the outside knew more than people on the inside. Because we couldn't watch the thing. Like today, you'd be walking down, you watch the whole thing on your smartphone. We were inside the building, so we didn't know what was going on the outside. Cell phone service was going in and out. So as we're exiting, we're walking down.
Were there a lot of people with you as it came down? Or was it piled up with people?
Yeah, people were walking, but it was like a fire drill. It was like a fire drill. The fire drill, half the people take seriously, half the people don't. Just walking down. There's no running. There's no sense of urgency at this point. So then we get to the 44th floor, and I don't know if you haven't heard this will send chills down your back. But the only announcement I heard, official announcement from the Port Authority that day, was when I got to the 44th floor, and they said that Building 1 has a fire, Building 2 is safe, and you can return to your desk. And have you heard that one before?
No, I've never heard that. Wow.
They said Building 1 is safe, Building 1 is fire, sorry, Building 2 is safe, you can return to your desk. I know someone, Alicia Levin, who was, what I heard was she was down on the bottom floor, she went upstairs to get a purse, she called her parents, and that's where she was. Because they made that announcement. I personally, I left the stairwell, I walked over to the elevator, and Hashem didn't want me to go in the elevator, otherwise I would be not having this interview with you today. I decided not to go back up. That was on the 44th floor. When I got to the 33rd floor is when the planes hit our building. The planes actually went through the floor I had just left, 79th floor. Now the first plane went in more straight, the second plane went more diagonal. It took out, I think, all 5 floors of my company. And at that point, we obviously knew something was a lot worse. We knew things were very scary. When the plane itself hit, I remember I fell over for half a second. I didn't know if I was alive or not. I realized I was alive. And at this point, major part of the story is I wasn't religious at that point. I had slowly started to do some stuff, but very minor. I mean, I didn't look like I look like today for sure. And I wasn't praying. I wasn't keeping Shabbos. At this point, though, I had a flashback to when I was in Reform Hebrew school about 20 years prior to that. And when we learned the Shema, they taught us that people say this when they're about to die. So at that point, all I kept repeating was the first 6 words of Shema, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Echad. That's all I knew. Those 6 words. I kept saying over and over again. 6 to Shema Yisrael, all the way down. That's all I knew. That's all I knew of Shema. But here's the crazy part. It's not the way Hashem puts everything into perspective. What did we read 2 days ago, 3 days ago? Shema Yisrael. And what does Rashi say? I never heard Rashi by that point. I never heard Art School even. Rashi says, the recitation of Shema, it's Kedai that you'll be saved. And that's exactly what happened. 900 years later, Rashi's words were what happened to me. I guess it was Kedai that would be saved. Rashi's words were true. At that point, people were more alarmed. We were walking down the stairs as fast as we could. I mean, there's about 3 people wide. And we saw a lot of firemen come up, who I'm sure never came down. We were on the way down. I remember when I got to the bottom floor, my best friend since kindergarten calls me from California. He's like, "You have to get out of the building. And, it's been hit." And I told him, I said, "I'm getting out." And then we lost connection. He thought I was exiting my floor at that time. So the building collapsed. He thought I was still in there. I mean, I was actually like getting out at the bottom floor at that point. And then he actually, when I took the job, he told me I shouldn't take the job because it's the #1 terrorist target in the world. And I said, "What are you talking about? You're crazy." Anyway, we get out of the building. I remember people saying that people were jumping, and I didn't want to look at that. I wanted to just take one quick look to see what the holes look like. I took a quick half a second look, saw the big gaping holes in the building, and said, "Okay, keep walking." I got across the street. There's a payphone. Another thing from years turned back, a payphone. I got it.
Still working.
Yeah.
They were still working, those payphones, at that point.
Yeah, it was across the street. Yeah, it was working. But there was a long line, and I said to them, I'm like, I was up there. I have to get in touch with my family. And they let me go to the front of the line. And I got operator on the phone. I said, "You're not getting off this phone until you get in touch with someone who can get in touch with my family." And they arranged it. I got in touch with someone from mom's office who got in touch with everyone. And then from there, I made my way up to the Upper East Side where my uncle lives. And the rumors that were going on in the city that day, people thought the White House had been hit. People thought the state building. People thought the whole world was collapsing. No one had any idea what was going on. I mean, that's part one of the story. You want me to talk about how it led me to where I am today?
100%. We're speaking with Moshe Moskowitz, a survivor of 9/11, who was on the 79th floor, was able to go down, Baruch Hashem, and has shared with us amazing aspects of it. What is your personal takeaway to all of us today, all these 21 years later?
Right. The personal takeaway is that, life is short and you have to find meaning in life. That, this for me was, I mentioned to you, as 9/11, this is like my 9/11 moment, meaning like, this is a meeting when Hashem was reaching out to me and saying, listen, like, what do you want to do with your life? How do you want to live your life? Life could be here today, it could be here tomorrow. Do you want to live with meaning? Do you want to not live with meaning? And again, I say it's my 9/11 moment because me and everyone has shared it, but each person could find those 9/11 quote-unquote 9/11 moments in their life when they could completely see the Yad Hashem, could see Hashem's hand saying to them, listen, I'm leading you in this direction, I'm saving you from this, I'm putting you in touch with this person. What are you going to make with it? Open your eyes to these connections and make your life meaningful.
I really want to thank you, Moshe, and wish you continued success. Very inspiring. And everybody listening, please, as Moshe tells us, all of us have our 9/11 moments. It shouldn't be as drastic and overpowering as you've gone through, Moshe, yourself, but all of us know to take every day and every moment meaningfully. And we want to wish you continued success in your own work. I was very impressed when I found you on a LinkedIn account. It says, you talk about trying to make God proud. That, to me, is a powerful idea. All of us on this world, in our own way, should be making God proud of us and the investment he has in all of us and bringing us into this world. Thank you so much to Moshe Moskowitz. I also learned from him that the individual who came to the Fuji Bank floors and told everybody that Tower 1 had been hit and everybody should get out of there, really, in a sense, as Moshe expressed to me, this man saved his life as well as everybody else who was in that building. It took them about 17 minutes to get downstairs, and that's between the 79th floor and the 33rd, I believe, floor. It was just 17 minutes, and that's when the second plane hit. Now, Moshe shared with me that after 10 years, he researched to find that individual who had made that urgent announcement to everybody on the bank's floors. And he discovered him, contacted him. They've gotten very close. And he always expresses how this man had saved his life. And now, Baruch Hashem, this Moshe is married and he has a family, and he's running online fitness programs and dedicating his life. And as his LinkedIn account says, his goal in life is to try to make God proud. And he certainly is. This individual with his wife, who are not of the Jewish faith, they are invited and they've come to Moshe's family events, to his daughter's bat mitzvahs, and hopefully upcoming bar mitzvahs and the future weddings in the family. But this is the way Moshe, one story of how he expresses himself in appreciation to the individual who saved his life, and how he himself, together with his family, is dedicating his life and making every moment of life worthwhile. So these are seminal moments in an individual life that can never be forgotten. So we ask ourselves today, where were you when you heard the terrible news of the loss of a loved one? Where were you when you heard the incredible news? Other things in our lives as well. We also have these special moments. As Moshe tells us, we all have our 9/11 moments. As I say, whether it's a loss of a loved one or incredible news about getting a job of your dreams. And then there are seminal moments in the life of a nation that become indelibly impressed in the minds and the hearts of every member of that nation or people. Some will never forget where they were when Kennedy was shot, or a man landed on the moon, or the Challenger blew up. Anyone alive at the time remembers exactly where they were and how they felt on September the 11th, 2001. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was the end of the world as we knew it. Over the last 21 years, our lives have significantly changed between security in airports, the difficulty of getting passports and visas, and perhaps most of all, the sense of suspicion, doubt, and fear instilled in the American psyche until this very day. As much as September the 11th, 2001 is etched into my memory, I share with you today it's September the 12th, 13th, and the 14th are equally impressed upon my mind. Who can forget the pride we felt in being Americans? It seemed everyone was flying the American flag outside their home or on their car. God bless America and proud to be an American played at every gathering, including the baseball playoffs held in Yankee Stadium just a short time later. The NYPD and the NY Fire Department hats could be seen all over the country. In the days and the weeks following 9/11, civility and graciousness were at an all-time high, particularly in New York, which some would consider no simple feat. Neighbors went out of their way for one another. Government agencies and their employees were deeply appreciated by those who needed their services. Members of our military, policemen, firemen, first responders were revered. The sense of unity among the more than 250 Americans was extraordinary. Fast forward 21 years to today. Once again, the American people face a crisis, but this time it isn't ours alone. It's shared by humanity across the globe. For the last 2-3 years or so, the threat has not been from a visible enemy, but from a virus. Facing this universal danger should have brought us all closer together. It could have driven us to cooperate better, to feel more united, and to empathize with one another. Instead, for too many, the virus itself became the weapon to judge, to criticize, to condemn, and even to hate. Sadly, this pandemic has driven people, even families, apart. So today, instead of the pride in being an American that followed September the 11th, there are feelings of pessimism, cynicism, and some who explicitly express shame in America for various and varying reasons. Rather than feel a sense of unity and togetherness, there is polarization, divisiveness, discord. We too often forget that whether Republicans and Democrats, liberal or conservative, to the right, to the left, from a blue state to a red state, we are still all Americans. The utter lack of civility and basic respect in representing views on a myriad of issues and the manner in which we challenge those whose opinion opposes has grown, for no better word, toxic and destructive. As we pause to remember 9/11, to honor those who lost their lives and to express gratitude to those who risked their lives for the freedoms and the blessings we enjoy, I believe it is important to remember 9/12 and 9/13, just as we remember 9/11. Why? To reawaken those positive feelings of unity and togetherness, to recommit to the practice of civility, and to feel and express profound appreciation for this country and for those who serve it. To me, the enduring image of 9/11 must not be people falling from buildings, but of a nation lifting each other up. Our differences were important 21 years ago, but we found the will to put them aside, understand that to maintain the strength of our nation demands we focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. Unity, appreciation, faith, and service are the true legacy of 9/11. Our differences remain important today, but if we are going to defeat this pernicious enemy, one that has taken many more American lives than the horrific events of 9/11, we need to stay focused on what unites us and what we all have in common. You know, I'm going to share with you something. We do not know who wrote this following message for 9/11, but it remains one of the most beautiful and succinct summaries of the life lesson we are to take from an event that has the power to alter our lives. I share with you, this was written, we're not sure who the source or the author is, but it speaks for itself. On this day, 246 people went to sleep in preparation for their morning flights. 2,606 people went to sleep in preparation for work in the morning. 343 firefighters went to sleep in preparation for their morning shift. 60 police officers went to sleep in preparation for morning patrol. 8 paramedics went to sleep in preparation for the morning shift. None of them saw past 10 a.m. September the 11th, 2001. In one single moment, life was never the same. As you live and enjoy the breaths that we take today and tonight, before you go to sleep in preparation for your life tomorrow, kiss the ones you love, snuggle a little tighter, and never take 1 second of your life for granted. Sandy Dahl, the wife of Flight 93 pilot Jason Dahl, turned it into a personal prayer. If we learn nothing else from this tragedy, we learn that life is short and there is no time for hate. So too, a 9/11 survivor begs us to remember that life is fleeting, impermanent, and uncertain. Therefore, we must make use of every moment and nurture it with affection, tenderness, beauty, creativity, and laughter. These are some of the lessons, dear friends, that we need to remember today on 9/11. Let us pray that by way of the memory, we may turn a day of tragedy into a prophetic message which will grant us the wisdom to hasten the coming of the universal day of peace of Mashiach with love and understanding. Whenever the anniversary of the attacks comes around, I'm reminded to also appreciate the unmiracles. What do I mean? The miracles of life itself, of nature, of science, of technology. To appreciate when life continues uninterrupted. And since September the 11th has a close proximity to Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, it is especially timely to go into the New Year reminded that whatever happens, only God runs the world. No matter what time it says on the clock, according to His plan, we are always right on time. The truth is, America at its roots is a harmonious blend of both humanist and theist values, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Throughout its history, from its founding fathers until this day, it is built, in the words of Kennedy's inaugural address, upon the belief that our rights do not come from government, but from God. Harvard professor Eric Nelson argues convincingly in his latest book, The Hebrew Republic, Jewish Sources and the Transformation of European Thought, that not America alone is heir to these values. These are the ideas that gave birth to all that we find most beneficial in the Western realization and civilization. It's within that harmonious duet of God and man, the divine and the earthly, transcendence and life. It is there that true heroes arise. Those who put their lives on the line because they value the rights and the lives of others, as our fathers and grandfathers did when they crossed the Atlantic to fight the world's mightiest army so they would live today in a free world. If we all want to be heroes, if we will dare to preserve our precious freedom before the onslaught of those who openly call for its destruction, if we will stand with courage as those previous generations did for us, so that our children as well can thrive in a free world, we need not die doing it. We need only strength and the foundations upon which these rights are based. The harmony of God and the humankind that Abraham, the father of us all, first brought to the world. So today marks a painful anniversary. It's a time for remembrance. Nearly 3,000 people were murdered in those 21 years ago in terror attacks. Each loss created a painful void for family, friends, and the nation. Right after the tragedy, we came together as a nation. We stood as one in our grief, in our unity, and yes, anger. After all, our country, our value system was under attack, and it's a time for recommitment. We must not falter in the defense of what we aspire to, that is freedom, human dignity, mutual respect. Our approach to tragedy has always been twofold. On the one hand, we grieve. There's no way any human being can ignore the terrible and tremendous pain being suffered by so many people. However, we do not allow the grief to become all-consuming. We must turn tragedy into triumph and ashes into rebuilding. We cannot allow those who would destroy us to be successful by being paralyzed by our sorrow. Let each of us find ways to add in positive acts of goodness and kindness, of charity and in prayer. We will not lock our doors in grief. We will not retreat into hiding and grief. Rather, we must commemorate 9/11 filled with sadness, but also with purpose, with tears, but also with optimism and joy. This is the only fitting memorial we can create for the thousands of lives shattered and lost. So, fellow Americans, these vicious acts were heat-seeking missiles aimed at humanity's desire to fulfill its God-given mission on Earth, living in a peaceful and civilized manner. No, we will not allow our spirits to be broken. We will find the inner strength to rise above this black day in the history of our world. Today, our enemies have reminded us in the most devastating manner that all we have is each other and our shared desire to live in peace. We must stand together in a united front to protect our world. Let us unite through acts of goodness and kindness towards each other. May we merit that this coming year bring world peace and redemption. Thinking, standing just a week or a few days before Rosh Hashanah, when we pray to Hashem, to God, to demonstrate His mercy to the entire world, I'd like to again share with you some final reflections about the 9/11 events that have so affected us. We all look for consolation and we seek to console. But the sheer enormity of the evil we experience is so hideous, so repellent, we're left with no words. Of course, we stand behind our military, our intelligent agencies, and our elected leaders in their efforts to eradicate this evil. But we shy away from personally looking this evil straight in the eye. We shrink from taking it on. Timidly, we prod and encourage each other to return to normal life. For how could anyone of us purport to combat something so grotesque and so awesome? And therefore, I'd like to propose, though, that we can and need to do just that. Much has been written about the motivation, the conditioning, and the blood-curdling ruthlessness, the precision of the 9/11 crimes against humanity. All accounts and hypotheses point to the same simple truth. The primary motivation, the underlying force behind every action executed by the 9/11 murderers was simply one word: hatred. Pure, unbridled, blind, indiscriminate hatred. Hatred of freedom, hatred of democracy, hatred of infidels, hatred of Jews, hatred of anything and everything besides the murderers themselves. Simply wanton, simply hatred. It is this that we must combat. It is this that we must eradicate. What is the remedy to wanton hatred? The Lubavitcher Rebbe of righteous memory answered this many times with clarity and certitude. Wanton love. Wanton love. Raw, cold-blooded, fanatical, baseless, relentless hatred can be matched and combated with pure, undiscriminating, uninhibited, unyielding, baseless, unsolicited love and acts of kindness. But we need not just plain love. We need love that costs us, love for which we get nothing back. The barbarians willingly gave up their lives to sow their hatred. We need to be willing to lose sleep, to suffer losses, to be uncomfortable, to sacrifice our pleasures in order to help another human being, with at least the precision and determination and the passion that the evil's, compatriots of 9/11 employed to fulfill their mission of hate. Every one of us can make a difference. The Rebbe would always quote from Maimonides, his famous teaching: each person should see himself and herself as though the entire world is on a delicate balance, and with one deed, he or she can tip the scales. Only a few handful of terrorists turned our world upside down. Let us not underestimate the power of each of us to turn it upright again. Every good act, every expression of kindness and love will be 1,000 antibodies to neutralize the viruses put in place by the forces of evil. In response to darkness, we will fill the earth with light. To defeat evil, we will saturate our globe with good. And when we do our part, God will surely do His part to protect us and transform our world into one we all hope and yearn for, one that will be filled with His glory like the waters that fill the ocean. God bless America. As we prepare for the moment of silence in honor of today, 9/11, I now would like to blow the shofar. Preparing for the high holidays for Rosh Hashanah certainly is something we should have in mind during this important day, as we very shortly, of course, will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah. And one of the ways to prepare for Rosh Hashanah appropriately, with depth and with meaning, is to find a way to finish the year in a strong manner. And how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we conclude this month of Elul and with a real gusty way be prepared for the new year? One of the ways is to recognize that within each and every one of us there is this unsullied core of perfection. Inside of us there's a concealed tzaddik point, righteous point. To live an optimal life, we need to learn to imagine ourselves as a tzaddik, as this righteous individual, and live from that place of perfect purity. It's regarding this that the Rebbe Maharash, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, says that every person should imagine themselves as this righteous individual for at least 15 minutes a day. Let me explain. This is not simply an affirmation or some fantasy. It is true. Each of us are a tzaddik. Each of us are righteous. Maybe it is not true in the way we have lived at all moments and under all conditions. But if we think about it in the essence, in our real essence, that is true. This is because there's a small sliver of infinity of God's presence within each and every one of us. This is the point of ultimate perfection and infinite unity. A person should view himself, if he was to view himself like a rasha, like a wicked person, as a damaged soul and struggling with that self-image. A person can do that. You can see yourself in that way, or you can realize that inside of us, within us, there is that tzaddik personality. Under all circumstances, there's still a small portion of perfection and goodness, and we should aspire to live up to that image. So instead of subscribing to our negative side, or our false fantasy of being a wicked person, we can use our power of imagination to tap into who we truly are, and that is a tzaddik, this righteous individual. This isn't some, psychological hoopla. This is the real thing about each and every one of us. Clearly, it is more productive and healthy on all levels to see oneself according to the perspective of one's true potential and aspire to live up to that image. Seeing oneself as a weak person and then struggling against yourself only weakens you further. Arguing for and defending your smallness and limitations will surely ensure that we will remain limited and small. The world and others around us are also best served when we envision ourselves at our best, and therefore working hard to manifest our tzaddik personalities, our tzaddik qualities, our righteous dimension that we each and every one of us have. This mindset is a worthwhile in a very general outlook in life. If a person says, as we said, to spend each day 15 minutes thinking this way, that you are a tzaddik, that you are a righteous individual, then you're able to transcend one's issues and struggles with ease. Just act from that place. This mindset is also effective in relation to very specific issues. Say, for instance, a person is working on overcoming his instinct to flare up in anger. He should imagine himself as if he has already perfected that very attribute and pattern and approach subsequent experiences of anger from that paradigm. Take a few minutes right now to visualize yourself as this perfect individual, this tzaddik. From this perspective, recall a couple of traits that you are working on. See yourself with those traits already deeply refined. What do you see? How do you feel? Now visualize yourself as a perfect tzaddik in all respects, in all aspects. Remember, this is already true from a soul perspective. From a soul perspective, we're in that level of a tzaddik, of a righteous individual. And what do you see? How do you feel? Then, from this place, conclude your practice and immediately go and do a good deed. Something small, but one that will befit a righteous individual. And then repeat this action, and you will see from this 15-minute exercise each day or in general, to see ourselves from that perspective, it makes a world of a difference as we move forward. So moving forward, of course, is something very, very pertinent to our times, because we are moving from the month of Elul, that's the Jewish month that concludes the Jewish year, and we're going to begin Rosh Hashanah, the new month of Tishrei. The month before Tishrei is this Elul. In Elul, we concluded the past year. In a sense, we gathered in like a deep inhale. We owned it and dealt with it. Like when you blow the shofar, you first have to blow, you inhale. So the month of Elul is where we took in, we kind of owned what we have. The month of Elul that we're in right now is Teshuvah, returning from negativity and returning back to God. Through this month, we examine and let go of old negative behaviors, moving from remorse to acceptance, and then to self-illumination. Now, as we prepare ourselves and know we're going to go into the month of Tishrei, we exhale, so to speak, into a new year as we blow the shofar. So the blowing out, in a sense, is pushing out into the new month, into the new year, an extraordinary amount of energy. So while the month of Elul is time for gathering up the entire past year as it ends, the new year in Tishrei is a time for projecting a good incoming year with a fresh new beginning. In the process of teshuvah, of returning to the alignment with our own deepest selves, there are two essential stages. There's charata, we regret and contemplate the past. And the second side, Kabbalah, means acceptance and creating resolutions and solutions for the future. First, we must break away from our old life, and then we begin a new life. That's what the whole purpose of the month of Elul is. Elul is about owning our shortcomings and breaking away from perpetuating them. And Tishrei, the month that starts Rosh Hashanah, is the new beginning, the rebirth. Only once teshuvah is established in a person with sincere regret and resolve can they consciously receive forgiveness. This is true not only of forgiveness from God, from heaven, but if we have acted negatively towards others, or even if we have let ourselves down, this teshuvah allows us to receive forgiveness from others and to truly forgive ourselves. So this month of Elul, these final days of Elul, is the deep reservoir of teshuvah. Tishrei is the fountain of forgiveness that flows from that very place. The peak of forgiveness, of course, is crowned with Yom Kippur, the day of total divine forgiveness and atonement. Important things to consider, and that is why each day of the month of Elul we blow the shofar as well, in preparation, in the sense we blow in, take our breath in, and then blow out. And this is, in a sense, a practice, laying out the foundation that we take in this month. We take in this month of reflection and recognize the closeness that we all have to Hashem. This is a month where the king, so to speak, leaves his palace and meets us all where we're at. and wants to speak to us in a very close, intimate way and answer and give us all the blessings for the new year. Whatever we ask for, this is the time to do it. And then we exhale, we blow out into the new year. We're ready to bring that out. But if we do it from a perspective that deep inside of us we have that tzaddik, that righteous aspect, the soul, the essence of the soul is so great and so holy and pure. And we think about this, as I said, 15 minutes a day from that perspective, we will actually, with the practice, come to appreciate that we really can allow that righteousness seep into every area of our life, and to be able to see things in the most beautiful, holy, complete, holistic way, both physically and spiritually. Once again, I'm going to blow the shofar in preparation for the important moment of silence on this important day of 9/11.